Okay, now we are on chapter 12 of Gypsy's book, My Time to Stand, and this chapter is going to be about her medical records. This is probably my least favorite chapter of this whole book because the whole ordeal, this whole thing is nothing but gaslighting. She's a narcissist. She wants to paint this picture for you that she's just victim. She didn't know these things, and she goes after the doctors and everything else. So let's get into it. Now, she states that she had finally got her medical records 3 weeks after her release. However, Gypsy, how did you not see your medical records or talk about your medical records, since that's the main reason why you got your plea deal? That's the main reason why you only served 8.5 years. You were diagnosed, or your mother was diagnosed, Munchausen by proxy. So how did you not see your medical records or see any of this? Why is this all like new to you? I really want to know that. And if you don't even know that, then I'm really upset with the justice system for giving you the short sentence that they did, which is completely ignorant. And let me add that since you want to bring up Nick's sentence all the time and everything else, and why he got life and everything else. He got life because he rejected a plea, because he didn't feel like it was fair for him to serve 30 plus years while you only got 8.5 for something that you did, for something that you planned too. Yes, he participated, but you used him like a weapon, okay? You were just as involved as he was, if not even more, because you manipulated him for how many years? She goes and she paints this picture starting out with being with Ryan right after her release, and that she felt like when he would go to work, she felt married. Sweet pea, you were married at this point. What do you mean you felt married? You were married when he was with Ryan, okay? And that him going to work and then coming back home to her made her feel like she was worth something to come back to. She goes in about the doctors and how they're so-called medical experts, and basically this whole chapter is just going to be her trashing everyone. She goes in and tells us that basically her mother abused her and made her have all these unnecessary medical procedures, even though she had no issues. The only issue that Gypsy stated that she ever had was her lazy eye. And then brings up her father and says that her father was conned into going back with her mom because he was told that she had sleep apnea at a young age and that she had to use a CPAP machine, which she tells us that her mother had to have stole that CPAP machine or bought it, and then alludes to her mother stealing it from the hospital that she worked at. She did tell us that she did have sleep studies done, not at a young age, but a little bit older. But Gypsy, you do understand when you have a sleep study that they can see if you stop breathing. You don't have to be a heavyweight or anything like that to have a sleep disorder. That Dee Dee calls her father to be uninvolved in her life. Dee Dee had apparently told Gypsy that if Gypsy was a boy, then her dad would have been in her life. She goes through talking about how in her medical records she searched for anything involving the CPAP machine. However, Gypsy, I thought that those medical records were lost. That was the main reason why your mother was able to get away with all this. So if the new doctors, which you had one doctor consistently throughout most of your life, she tells us that she's upset when she goes through these medical records because one of the doctors had notated that Gypsy and her mother was their favorite duo, and she's complaining that she wasn't singled out from her mother and that they were grouped in together, like she didn't have any individuality. She tells us during one of her testings that when they asked her to do a urinary sample, that her mother had punctured her own finger and then poured the substance, the blood, into the cup to try to tip off the test, but the test still came back inconclusive. And then out of the blue in this chapter, she goes and tells us about how her mother would put weed killer into her grandmother's food. Gypsy, how did you remember that at such a young age? Because I remember you going in about being 4 and 5, talking about being with your grandfather, but now you can remember at a younger age, your mother putting weed killer into your grandmother's food to poison her. And she goes on with the chromosomal disorder that she had been diagnosed with, and how she didn't believe that she suffered with this disorder, even though there is medical documentation of this. And she even stated when she found out that she was pregnant with her child that she is pregnant with now, that she had to get her daughter tested, that she worried that her daughter would suffer from the same chromosomal disorder and that she would have the same issues that she had growing up. She puts this disorder off to the side like it's nothing, like it's just whatever, because she knows that this is the plot hole to her not having any illness. That this test that was ordered for her chromosomal disorder happened when she was 20 years old, and it was done in 2012. That her mother just had to know about this disorder, even though that disorder was very rarely ever talked about at all during the time of Gypsy's birth. It's a very rare illness, and I don't even think that many people had documentation of it at this point, so doctors didn't know to test for this Gypsy. That she claims that she has no symptoms of having this disorder, yet if you go and read up on microdeletion, you'll see that Gypsy has almost every symptom of this. Said that her mother would take her dad and Christy's son's pictures and say it was her dead child. And she goes on about her teeth again, and she questions why they had to be removed, and she demands that the doctors pay for her a new set of teeth. Even though, Gypsy, you have had your teeth done how many damn times? Why do they need to pay for it again? You had this done for free. How many damn times? Then goes on to tell us that she, in her medical records, her mom had said that she was allergic to sugar and everything, that she couldn't have any type of sugar, but she's drinking Pediasures and everything else and eating just everything, and she's cracking open cans of biscuits and eating those. What do you think is in that? It's sugar. The only thing that was in her medical records that I had seen, now I may have missed a couple things, was that she had a dairy intolerance. It was on about her stomach tube and how it was very unnecessary for her to have that. However, in her medical records, it states that the reason why she had the tube placed was because she had failure to thrive. She couldn't gain any weight. So, her at a young age, she was never progressing or gaining any weight whatsoever. She says now that she's able to be out and be free, that she plans on going after the doctors and plans on going directly to the government to get some bills passed, so this doesn't happen to anybody else. If I was these doctors, I would go in and sue the absolute shit out of her. However, they won't touch it because she's such a media public icon that if they did, they're going to get a lot of hate either way. But eventually, Gypsy, when your fame drops, be wary because this might happen. And I know that this is why you designed your book as a memoir, so people couldn't sue you for these type of situations. And we end this chapter with her being done with her ENT because she jumps back and forth between Ryan and her real life situation at that point and her past. And she tells us that the doctors now want to do exploratory surgery on her voice box and that she does not want that to happen, that this is the time and moment that she realized that stuff needed to be done. However, I thought this happened like how many chapters ago? I thought that she was just done and wanted her mother gone chapters ago. But this is what really tipped her over the edge. She messages Nick. He says, "Hi, darling." And then she asks him if he still would protect her from her mother. And he says yes. And then that is basically where the unaliving story begins.